I've been part of a team that's gone on to win 3 in a row. It's crazy, really, and you kind of forget about it sometimes.
Like all the guys that I played with growing up through the years, like we're all still friends and everything. So it really is like it's a good family sense and a good community sense.
We had won in All Ireland in 97, 99, 2000. It's more local at your club. You know everyone, you know the setup. It's different than joining a county panel.
It was nearly like a kind of statement to say, we're here, we're ready to play. No one's going to push us over this year.
This podcast is sponsored by Declan Kirby GAA Star. Declan Kirby GAA Star is a children's GAA book written by primary school teacher and GAA coach Michael Egan. Follow the trials and tribulations of Declan Kirby and his team at Smithgreen Gaelic Football Club. The book is a very good read for any parents who are looking to get their children involved in Gaelic games. The book is available in Easons, Lidl and all good bookshops. It's also available to download on Amazon, so make sure to go and check it out. They're very good supporters of the channel and the page, so you'd certainly be doing me a good favour as well if you went ahead and checked the book out. So I do very much appreciate it. The link is in the description down below, and let's get straight into it. Okay, so welcome back to GAA Fan TV. My name is Aaron. I'm delighted to be joined here by Paul Shaughnessy of Backdoor GAA Podcast. We're going to be looking ahead to the Galway Senior Football Championship Final this weekend between Corofin and Mountbellew, Moylough. I suppose, first of all, Paul, how's things with yourself? How's tricks with yourself?
All good now, Aaron. Great to, I suppose, have a club championship around this time of year. It's really keeping us, I suppose, all on our toes during the weekends, and even like going back to last weekend, 15 county finals or something on a Sunday. It's a crazy time of the year, but it's great that we have so much GAA at one time. And like, there's been some great stories across the club championship so far.
Absolutely, yeah. There's been a whole host of cracking games, and I suppose this weekend, Corofin, Mountbellew, Moylough, like especially after the semi-final last year, we were just chatting about it a little bit off air there. Like, I mean, it promises to be a fascinating spectacle anyways, especially after what happened between these two last year, like Mountbellew, Moylough ending that, what was it, Corofin win 6 county titles in a row. So, I mean, it makes for a very exciting game this weekend.
Yeah, I know. It's a good rivalry these sides have really built up, and I suppose everyone across the country last year, when they seen Mountbellew win 2-13, 12 points, they're going to go on now and win the county title, and obviously they came up short against Moycullen last year, unfortunate for Mountbellew, but like there's a huge rivalry here. There's really a hatred between both sides. They wouldn't see eye to eye, and I suppose that's what really makes it so fascinating this weekend. I suppose like it will be different, I suppose, when you do see these two teams line up the weekend. Corofin are, I suppose, introducing a lot of younger players. Mountbellew, like when they did bring Corofin to a replay, they played a lot more defensive. Now at the moment, they're putting huge pressure on the ball, and they're playing a lot more attacking. So like it is two kind of very different sides to what we've seen 2 or 3 years ago. But yeah, no, a huge rivalry here, and it'd be fair to say really like Moycullen were competitive against Mountbellew, but like there's kind of, everyone's kind of been looking at the big three of Corofin, Mountbellew and Moycullen this year, so there has been a bit of a gap between, I suppose, the big three and the rest this year in the championship.
Yeah, I suppose like it does seem like between the three of them anyways. I mean, I know Corofin have gotten the better of the majority of the two over the last couple of years, but it seems between the three of them, like anyone can kind of beat anyone. Like you've seen, obviously Moycullen beat Mountbellew, Moylough in the final last year, but then Mountbellew, Moylough get the better of Moycullen in the semi-finals. So I mean, it does like would you reckon there's not much between the three of them, or would you still, I suppose a lot of people would still automatically have Corofin as the number one team, and fair enough when you look at what they achieved. But I mean, Mountbellew did beat them last year, so
yeah, like there is the big three there, but I suppose the thing about Moycullen is they came up short this year, and it's amazing to think they did win county title without Peter Cook, because they didn't even have him last year. He's in the States, so that's the crazy thing about it. But yeah, no, Mountbellew have definitely came back with a bit of hurt on their minds, but I think if you just look at it from I suppose a county perspective, Corofin Mountbellew in the semi-final, 119 to 10 points. The bench included Ian Burke, former Galway footballer, Mike Farrer, Galway footballer, and then Matthew Cooley and Tony Gill, who were part of the All-Ireland winning Galway under-20 team that defeated Dublin. I don't think there's many clubs that can call on a bench like that, and that just shows you the strength and depth in Corofin, really.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's almost frightening when you start calling out some of those players. It nearly reminds me a bit of Ballymun Kickums in Dublin, and in terms of the depth in the squad that they have. Like, and in terms of that rematch last year, like I didn't see the game personally. I don't know if you did, but what were your thoughts initially when Mountbellew went and pulled off that big scalp? Because I suppose a lot of people were kind of looking at Corofin again and thinking they'll go and they'll make it 7 county titles in a row, and they'll go, and obviously there was no All-Ireland scene, but it was a bit of a mad year in many ways because they go and beat Corofin, but then lose in the final. They kind of had, it was a bit like Mayo this year, beating the Dubs and then losing in the final. They had that big moment, but they, in the end, they didn't win anything.
Yeah, like I suppose when I did watch that game last year, and when I do look back at it, I think it's the manner that kind of surprises everyone. Like Mountbellew have always been thereabouts, but to beat Corofin by 7 points, like we haven't seen many teams do that. So I suppose that was the most surprising aspect of it. But like Mountbellew now, like a couple of years ago, like Michael Daly's age, Owen Finnerty's age, they would have won a lot of under-21 titles in Galway. And like it is still a very, I suppose, young Mountbellew team. When you like, there might be 1 or 2 players over the age of 30, but then the majority of it goes from nearly, you'd have lads from 28, maybe as young as Patrick Kelly, who's 21. Like, so it's a very young side, but like when they have lost Corofin that much, like there's huge hunger to really get over the line. They want to end this 35-year wait, and it's just killing them. They've been so close on so many occasions, and I think the biggest challenge for them is just going to be mentally, like trying to approach it with the right frame of mind. And like Corofin in the final is just, it's a dangerous prospect. I suppose there was a bit of, I suppose, maybe relief among Galway supporters. Corofin were finally beaten, because you just know yourself, like when one team keeps winning in the county, it makes it sick. It makes it sick for people just to see that one team winning constantly. Nearly like it's made the rest of the country sick when you're seeing Dublin win all the time. Like, but yeah, like it's a very kind of hard one to call, because if you look at Corofin's route to the final, Mountbellew, have had a lot tougher of a route. Like they did have a handy group, Mountbellew, but like they went extra time with my own club, Anna Down. They bet the county champions Mike Cullen, while Corofin in the knockout stages have beaten Milltown and Killannon. Like, no disrespect to any of them sides, but as we said, there is a bit of a gap. So like that's the one thing is you'd say is Mountbellew came through the tougher route, while Corofin haven't really been tested yet. Yeah,
and I suppose like looking at Corofin, first of all, like I've only kind of seen mostly highlights. I haven't really been able to watch too many of the games because obviously there's so much happening all across all different club championships. But from looking at some of the results anyways, it looks like, because normally sometimes in Galway, you'd see them, maybe they might have a 1 or 2 point victory, or they'll get over the line in extra time. But it does seem like, from looking through the results anyway, they seem to be fairly dispatching a lot of teams quite comfortably. And maybe it is the fact that you said maybe they haven't faced the same kind of quality just yet, but I mean, they do seem to have their house in order this year anyways.
Yeah, so I think they bet Milltown in the quarterfinal 112 to 8. They bet Killannon 119 to 10. So like they have dispatched both of them comfortably. Like I mentioned earlier on the podcast there, like about maybe like there's a couple of positional changes, like Dylan McHugh now, who would have played centre back for Galway, he's operating at midfield this year with Ronan Steed. And Dahi Burke, who plays his club hurling with Turlockmore, and obviously the Galway hurler, he's gone to wing back this year. And like he's a massive boost to just focus now on the football. Like he's a vital cog. Like he is one of the top dual stars, like overall, when you look at GAA players who have played football and hurling. And then like they've integrated a lot of youth into the side. Dara Silk is really nailing a spot down, and he's huge potential. Dylan Canny the last day was very impressive. So they are introducing, I suppose, they needed to change it really, because it was just, I suppose, when they're constantly on the road all that time, like winning all those Club All-Irelands, they had to freshen it up a bit. And like don't be surprised if Ianberg's in there the next day either, because like he's some player to be able to call in, and like there Gavin Burke as well, Ian's younger brother, he's gone in this year at cornerback. So like that bit of youth has come in. But yeah, as I was saying, they've come through it fairly handily, but there's I suppose there's huge hunger for Corofin to get back Frank Fox in their hands. Like obviously it's going to be close, like, but for Corofin it's nearly like Kerry footballers, it's a failure for Corofin, and that's what they'll see it as if they don't win the county title.
Yeah, and I suppose like I imagine a lot of learnings from that defeat last year as well. And like what you said there before, I mean, to lose by 7 points, I think was probably the biggest shock considering the talent that they have. And yeah, you know, I'm sure they probably made some learnings, made a couple of changes going into this final without doubt.
Oh no, they definitely have. Like I suppose last year it was a lot easier. I found anyways, looking at the club champions, it was a lot easier for the favourites to get caught because it was more kind of week in, week out. It was just the county championships. It was behind closed doors, so we did see a lot of the bigger teams. But now we're seeing like a lot of the bigger teams like are coming through more convincingly. Like we've seen Kilmacrokes and teams like that who are just kind of, they're either grinding a way out or they're winning convincingly, and that's the one thing. Like Corofin know at this stage they can win a game any way you want. Like they can win a game by playing football and outclass you, or they can win a game where they'll just grind it out and they'll find that way. And unfortunately, that's one thing Mountbellew know all about.
Yeah, I mean, I was even having a look through there, like a list of the different Galway senior finals, and for Mountbellew, Moylough, like you'd feel a little sorry for them. They've gotten to so many finals down the years. They've beaten some big teams. They've had some big moments, but like, what is it? Has it been 35 years, I think, since they last won a county title? So massive pressure on them, I suppose, to finally get that victory and get over the line in this final.
Yeah, huge pressure on them. I suppose one thing this year now is they do have Michael Daly wasn't with Galway this year, so he's just been playing club football, and he's really been a vital cog for them. But his brother John Daly would have been on the Galway panel. He's back from a cruciate now, and he's playing the best football of his life, to be honest. He done an outstanding man-making job on Peter Cook in the semi-final. He's came up for goals at key moments for Mountbellew. So no, it's a huge task for Mountbellew, but they're really a player now that I think we're going to hear a lot of in a Galway jersey is Owen Finnerty at the edge of the square for Mountbellew. He's been outstanding in every game. Patrick Kelly is another player as well who's really putting his hand up. The two of them are really causing havoc. And I suppose the way Mountbellew play is they will play with that three inside, and they'll play their half forward line will more or less do the donkey work. I suppose they'll do a lot of unseen work that you won't see, like creating the turnovers, leaving that space. Like, because what Mountbellew have really tried to do this year is play 3-on-3 inside with Patrick Kelly, Owen Finnerty, and former Galway footballer Barry McHugh. And like Michael Daly's nearly kind of playing a quarterback role, trying to, I suppose, set up them scores from midfield. So yeah, no, it's like you'd wonder if Corofin weren't in the Galway Championship, Mountbellew would have a lot of county titles by this stage. But yeah, no, like they want to get over the line so bad. Like they're a real traditional club in Galway football, but it's so hard to call as well.
And I suppose for Corofin, like what you said there, like in terms of Mountbellew, Moylough, if they had to come through, they'd probably have a load of county titles. But obviously Corofin and majority of their players are the ones with the county title. So do you think the experience for them could be a big difference in this game? Like I remember even speaking to Martin Farragher not too long ago on my own podcast, and he even said like when they came up against Tuam Stars and in some of those games that went to extra time and replays and whatnot, he was even kind of mentioned the point that a lot of the time with a lot of those teams, you know, they'd almost freeze up in the kind of closing minutes because they felt like, here we go, we're about to beat Corofin, and in the end they'd kind of allow the other team to come back into it. So do you think the experience there for Corofin could probably be the big difference on the day?
Yeah, the experience could be key. Gary Sice hasn't played either, and I still think he's a player who has to contribute, can still contribute something. He has been probably one of the top club footballers in the last few years across the country. But Mountbellew have been there and they've know what coming up short is like. So I don't think they're going to be taking their eyes too much off the prize. And I think the fact that they've lost the final last year, you'd imagine they're really going to be thinking of, I suppose, revenge on the back of their minds coming into this one. Like it is a game being shown on DG Car. Like maybe I could be wrong here, but going by previous games, it either has been Corofin coming out and dispatching Mountbellew, or there has been close encounters. And I think this will be a real kind of close, cagey affair. Whoever gets a goal in this game, it could really be key. Like it was a high scoring game last year is the only thing you will look at, but I think it is going to be a lot tighter this year, a lot more tense. Corofin really want to get back there because like they still do have the kind of, I suppose, they're older statesmen, but like they're nearly in a transitional period. I've mentioned that younger players are now starting to come through, and for some of them younger players, like it'll be huge for them, like to win county titles when they're starting on the team, and that's really going to be motivating them. But for Montbellew, like they desperately want to get over the line as well.
And like one thing I've always wondered as well, like with Corofin, is they've so much talent, so many players, but you don't see too many of those players often playing for the county. Like you've seen a few of them, all right. Ronan Steed was obviously a player that springs to mind, but obviously he stepped away there for Galway during the summer. So like what do you think that is there? Do you think, like I suppose it helps Corofin in many ways that they've so many players that could easily probably play for the Galway senior footballers, but obviously play for the club, and they have a lot of club commitments. But what do you think they're just so focused on Corofin that that's the reason why they haven't played for Galway, or what do you think?
Well, if you take for this year, you would have seen Liam Silk, Kieran Malloy, Mike Farrer would have come on. Bernard Power was part of the panel as well this year. That's 4. Ian Burke obviously stepped away, Ronan Steed stepped away. I think in previous years it was a lot harder to get Corofin players in, but I think we are starting to kind of see the tables turn a bit and see more Corofin players. Like there probably is 1 or 2 more that could be in there. If Dereck still keeps going the way he can, he's definitely a player who, I suppose, Port Joyce will be keeping an eye on. He was kind of in and out of the Galway panel in the last year or two. Dylan Wall is another player I suppose people would like to see in as well, and probably right as well. He has been going very well in the club championship in the last few years. But for Corofin, it's such a commitment. Like when you're going that far in the club championship, it's a big commitment to go straight into the county. Like these are amateur players, and like it's kind of good for these club players because Corofin have won of Ireland, and then a lot of them players would go away in the summer and then they come back and they rejoin the Corofin setup. Obviously, maybe haven't been able to do that with COVID, but I definitely think now in the next few years we will start to see more and more Corofin players be introduced into the Galway setup.
And I suppose for Mountbellew, Moylough, like who do you see as the big dangerman then for Corofin to keep a hold of? You mentioned Patrick Kelly there and Owen Finnerty. Would they be the main two, or do you think there could even be some other players maybe who might step up on the day for Mountbellew if they are to pull off another big shock again in the Galway Championship?
Yeah, for Mountbellew, Michael Daly is obviously going to be key, and maybe Dylan McHugh might move back to the backs, and Dahi Burke might go in on him because he has often done a man-marking job for Corofin. Finnerty and Kelly and McHugh inside, like it's going to be interesting to see what kind of way Corofin set up. He obviously played with a full back line of Colm Silk, Liam Silk and Gavin Burke in the semi-final, and I think they will try and drop numbers back because they know that's where the majority of the Montbellew scores are going to come from. John Daly's probably going to do a man-marking role. It'll be interesting to see who will he pick up, because I suppose the thing with the Corofin forwards is they constantly move around the place all the time. So, but John Daly and kind of James Foley's runs from deep from Montbellew, that's going to be key. So Corofin are going to be trying to track them there. But I think the big one really is if Corofin stop Owen Finnerty, I think that's going to be really key. He's been outstanding in the championship so far this year.
How do you see it playing out then in that case? Like if you were to put your neck on the line, I suppose, and call who who's victorious in the end, whether it's on Saturday or Sunday? Like, who do you think's gonna be raising the Frank Fox Trophy?
Yeah, it is a very close one. I would love to see Mountbellew finally get over the line, because, as I've said, they've just been trying so hard for so many years. But I just think you can't write Corofin off in a final. It's the experience, and like they probably will go with this youthful team, but it's the players that they can call in when the game's in the melting pot. Ian Burke could be introduced. If you're Tony Gales or Matthew Cooties, Mike Farrer will probably start the next day. I think he was carrying a bit of a knock. Haven't seen Gary Sice, as I mentioned, and I think when you just have that club, I suppose, depth at this level, and especially around this time of year, it can really stand to you. But I think it's going to go right down to the wire. Like, could possibly even see extra time, but I just expect Corofin to narrowly scrape over the line in this one.
Yeah, I suppose I probably haven't seen enough of either side to give a fully accurate prediction, but yeah, you would have to look at Corofin, really, wouldn't you, after what they've achieved over the last 6 or 7 years or so. I suppose Backdoor GAA, before we finish up, how did that all come about, and where can people find you if they're looking for your own podcast?
Yeah, so I set up the Backdoor GAA. I think it's nearly 2 years ago at this stage, and I suppose it's just really I've followed GAA like since a young age, and football or hurling, been going to Galway games since a young age, and just have a huge passion for GAA and studying journalism in college. It's something I wanted to do, and it's kind of just growing steadily throughout the years, and happy with the way it's going so far anyways. Yeah, it's just available on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcast.
Perfect, Paul. Well, look, listen, appreciate you coming on, and yeah, I'll link down your podcast down below anyway for anyone to if anyone wants to check it out.
Perfect. Thanks, millionaire.